Whoever said you guys don't like each other? Whoever said that? I can't get you to stop. You love each other so much. What a beautiful place, huh? Let's have our seats, please. I told one of my brothers, my oldest brother, that I always do this. And he said, I have to be out of my mind. He said he could never get his congregation to sit back down and listen to him again. Now I know what he means, right? Please have a seat. Shana Tova. Well, today, I want to do something a little bit different. Yesterday I sang to you. I hope it wasn't too bad. Today I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a very, very simple story that will give a very powerful message. It's a story that especially any of you who have served in the armed services or appreciate the service of others will especially appreciate the most. Can I see a show of hands of those here today who have served in the military? Thank you, thank you, thank you. The entire world owes a debt of gratitude to all those hands who were raised. For if not for our active men and women in the service today or our veterans, alive and of blessed memory, the world would be a very different place today. And let us never forget that. As for the story I'm about to tell, it teaches a universal lesson. It is the story that was shared by a young man named Yishai Braverman. Yishai Braverman was born and raised in Teaneck, New Jersey. He had his bar mitzvah in a conservative shul where he had been going to religious school since the first grade and continued right through Hebrew high school. When he entered Teaneck High School, he decided that when he graduated, he would seek his career in the United States Army. Everyone considered him to be a patriot, but wondered why such a nice Jewish boy would want to make his career in the military. No matter what people said to him, all he wanted to do after high school was to join the United States Army. Not even his parents could explain it, but they noticed the tears in his eyes every time he heard the Star-Spangled Banner played. As time went on, when he entered his senior year, he had a change of heart. He said to himself, I'm a Jew. Perhaps it would make more sense for me to join the Israel Defense Forces. After all, the IDF protects the Jewish people and at the same time protects the same values America stands for. While his parents would have been happier if Yishai did not choose the military as his career, they were even less thrilled that their beloved son wanted to join the IDF, a military that faced life and death challenges not once in a while, but every single day. Last June, Yishai Braverman graduated Teaneck High School, and about 13 months ago, he moved to Israel. He made Aliyah and joined the IDF. On the first day, basic training, the commander sat him and the other recruits down and explained the rules. The commanders told them that the only way they would make it through basic training and the only way that they would succeed in battle would be determined by how much they cared about each other. They said, on your own, there is very little that you can accomplish, but with support of your buddies, you can do a lot. You can climb a wall, crawl under barbed wire, capture a position, and save each other's lives while under attack. You can catch terrorists, stop smugglers, and take prisoners if you are part of a well-oiled team. Alone, you'll be lucky to keep yourself alive. That's the first lesson that every soldier in the IDF is greeted with on the first day of basic training. Your lives depend on your buddies, and your buddies' lives depend on you. Anyone who ever went through military basic training knows the drill instructor makes it seem like hell on earth, and the IDF is no different. The first day, the recruits are shown a 20-foot obstacle that they're told that they will have to learn how to scale in 25 seconds or less. They spend weeks in the field. Remember, Yishai Braverman started at the end of August. In Israel, the days are very hot, and the nights feel very, very cold in comparison. They're taught how to shoot, where to hide, and how to find and spot the enemy. They would sometimes start their training at 3 a.m. Early morning training was especially challenging, especially after having been up late the night before. Since Israel is always facing an existential threat from its neighbors, no one, and I mean no one, in the IDF is coddled. They must run half a kilometer with a full backpack, then do 30 push-ups again with a full backpack, and then enter a tent filled with tear gas. They must stay in that tent prescribed amount of time to learn that they can survive in the worst of worst conditions. They learn how to field strip a gun and then put it back together again in less than 3 minutes. By the way, did I mention that they had to do this while being blindfolded? Then there are forced marches, lots and lots of them. A forced march is when a soldier walks 20 kilometers over difficult terrain and then take out stretchers and carry soldiers on them. The entire time that this is happening, they're being yelled at by the drill instructors, calling them names like sissy and lazy for not moving fast enough. Of course, they're doing that in Hebrew. One day, Yishai Braverman and his unit were ordered to participate in a test. They were required to complete 85 sit-ups, followed by 75 push-ups, and then run 3 kilometers, all in under 10 minutes. Those who could not finish in time had to retake the test until they could pass it. There were no exceptions. There were no exemptions or fooling with the clock. After taking the test, Yishai Braverman said that he had witnessed one of the most unselfish acts that he had ever seen in his life. We had just finished the first kilometer, and we were coming around the bend, and on the second, when I noticed a couple of soldiers falling behind, obviously exhausted, I thought to myself, those poor guys, they're going to have to do this whole thing all over again. Then he saw something that amazed him. The lead runner and his buddy stopped, turned around, and started running in the opposite direction. They went back for the slackers and started running next to them, cheering them on, encouraging them to keep going, telling them, you can do it, you can do it. While the leaders and slackers did not pass the test, they had shown everyone what was really important. That was the day when we started feeling that we were real buddies. Yishai Braverman said every single one of the recruits realized that having an attitude, or having this attitude, is what would get them through the next time serving in the IDF. This was the first lesson that Yishai Braverman says he learned in basic training. He learned that a military unit is a family. He learned that it is one for all and all for one. This is not an unusual lesson. This is a lesson that every person who is trained in any military must learn. The sense of camaraderie that soldiers have for each other is something that is unshakable. It is not out of ideology that soldiers risk their lives to save their fellow soldiers. It's not out of patriotism either. It's not even the belief in the values of the country. Soldiers risk their lives due to the bond of loyalty each soldier has for the other. Soldiers risk their lives for the other because each knows, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the other would do the same for them. They each have each other's back. And this is something that every military teaches their recruits and continues to reinforce throughout the service. Yes, every soldier in every military learns this important concept very early in training. But there's something a little different. As a matter of fact, something very different that happens in the IDF that does not happen in any other military organization. Yishai Braverman tells the story of how last year during his basic training, most of the soldiers in his unit were given a furlough time for Yom Kippur. Only soldiers who had a reason to stay on base stayed. The rest of the soldiers were given time off to spend the day with their families. This, too, is not unusual. Most militaries respect the religious needs of their soldiers and try to accommodate them when they can. What is unique to the IDF is what took place just before the soldiers left the base to go home. The company commander held a formation of the entire unit. Remember, this was right smack dab in the middle of basic training. Now, if anybody knows anything about basic training, this is the precise time when every recruit hates, absolutely hates, their commanding officer the most. And I do mean hate, which is a word I very rarely use. Until now, the drill sergeant and officers have been doing whatever they could to make the lives of every recruit living hell. They made the recruits do difficult and demanding things. They called the recruits names often for just no reason at all. On the other hand, as the training continued, each soldier felt that their sergeants and commanding officers were godlike figures. The soldiers felt they existed for sole purpose of taking orders from them. During basic training, a private is not allowed to speak to a commanding officer unless given permission to do so. During basic training, a private salutes an officer each time and every time eye contact is made. Heaven help that soldier if that salute is not done in a snappy enough way, or it's considered at least to be sloppy. Again, this is true of any military organization. So here's the difference between the IDF and all the rest. While in the formation at the commanding officer called, listen carefully to what the soldiers were told right before being dismissed to return their families for Yom Kippur. Listen, you've never heard this before from any other army. First, the commanding officer wished all the troops a Yom Tov and a Shana Tova. That in itself is unique to IDF. Then the commanding officer, the person who was hated the most by all the recruits, continued. In the name of all the officers on the base, I ask for your forgiveness. All the times we've yelled at you or called you names was meant for your own benefit. It was never anything personal, but it's necessary we do that for you to be properly trained. If any of you felt hurt or insulted or humiliated by what we said or did, I want to say how sorry we are, and this is sincere and said directly from the heart. I hope that you feel no animosity towards us for what we are putting you through. He ended the way he started, by wishing them all a Shana Tova, and dismissed the formation. That was the moment that Yishai Braverman said that he realized that he was in an army like none other on earth. So why do I tell you the story today? The next time we all get together in these numbers will be Kol Nidre, and hopefully even more numbers. It'll be Yom Kippur. We should internalize this story. We must understand just how human and humane, how Jewish and how civilized the IDF is. And there is another reason as well. I tell you this story so that I can ask you all a very simple question. The question is, if they can do that, then why not us? I can only imagine what strength of moral character it must take for a military officer to apologize and to sincerely ask for forgiveness from a bunch of new recruits. For those of us here who were in the military, could any of you imagine your drill sergeant or your lieutenant asking forgiveness from any of you at any time during the basic training? Could any imagine your drill sergeant saying, for all those that he has offended, he's sorry? I don't think there's a chance of that. I think that they would be afraid that they might think that perhaps the recruits would think they were weak or soft themselves. If that happened, they might be afraid that they would lose their power, their authority, their ability to command. In the IDF, officers are not afraid to ask for forgiveness from their soldiers before Yom Kippur. They are not afraid that they will seem weak or soft. They are not afraid that they will lose the respect of their soldiers. In fact, Yishai Braverman said that he and his fellow recruits actually ended up respecting them more for the way they performed this act. My real question is not about them, though. My real question is about us. We all have people who do things for us in our lives. We have aides, we have groundkeepers, waiters, waitresses, cleaning services, doctors and nurses, postal workers, people who pick up our trash, deliver the newspaper, fix our computers, people who wait on us all the time, and the list goes on and on. How many of us give at least some of those people some sort of present, monetary or otherwise, when the winter holidays come around? Imagine that most, if not all of us, do that, I'm sure. What would happen, though, if in addition to that, once a year, we not only wished them a good holiday and not only gave them a gift, what would happen if we also apologized to them for anything that we may have done to hurt them during the year? Would they think we were weak if we did that? Or would they respect us more for being able to say, I'm sorry, I care? What if we occasionally apologize to our spouses, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, or yes, even our friends? Isn't it true that for those of us who have children, every one of us makes our youngsters apologize when they say or do something wrong, or don't we do that? What if we took our own advice and apologized when we did something wrong? Why shall we not do that? I believe me this. I know it's not easy to apologize. I know the words. As Fonz used to say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. It was Richie, what's his name? As they stick in your throats, it's hard to say I'm sorry. But we can. We need to stop rationalizing why we did what we did. Just say I'm sorry and mean it. What if we said to everyone we know that the commanders of the IDF did for those soldiers was right, as they did just before Yom Kippur? What if we would say to all of our friends and family and those we interact with, what if we did what the IDF soldiers did, learn from them? Would their respect for us go down, or do you think it might go up? Here's the question I want to leave with you. If they can do it, why not us? If the officers of the IDF are big enough and brave enough to say, I'm sorry, why not us? I wish you and yours a very good New Year, 5779. May it be a year of strength, of body, of character, good physical health. May it be a year in which we hurt very few or actually try to hurt no one. And a year in which we admit our mistakes when we make them, at the time we make them. For if we can do this, how much richer, how much more blessed will all of our lives be? Shana Tova u'Mituka. At this time, I'm going to ask you to please turn in your Machzorim to page 842. 842.